Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 3 of Disney Plus / Marvel's Loki, entitled Lamentis. Now the title's pretty straightforward. Lamentis is the planet that Loki and Lady Loki, aka Sylvie, we learned her name this week, spend the most of the episode on. As usual, I kind of want to talk about the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, and give some kind of thoughts at the end of things that don't fall into either of those two categories. So, first thing I want to talk about is the look of this episode. I've liked every episode of Loki so far, but kind of for different reasons. So like I liked the visuals in episode 1 of the what retro futurism kind of look. I really like that. I love the banter between Loki and Mobius. And then last week, I loved a lot of the way they moved the plot forward with the hiding behind the apocalypses and all that good stuff. I really enjoyed that. And then this week, I think my favorite thing about this episode is, again, the look of it, but this time it's regular futuristic. It was kind of giving me like Blade Runner kind of feel to it. And I just thought this episode looked absolutely incredible. I mean, it looked like something from one of the movies. We get to spend the whole episode there. I love the color scheme. It's like lots of neon, kind of purple and blues, things like that. Like I said, heavy Blade Runner vibes for me. I really enjoy the look of this episode. And that was, I think, probably my favorite aspect of the episode. So again, not only is this show continuing to be good every week, but it continues to find new ways to be good. Now we spend this whole week this whole episode for this week, really just having a conversation between Loki and Sylvie. And that's really all that happens this week. But I found the conversations to be compelling. I found them to be informative, funny, interesting. And then they had that added layer of, with two Lokis essentially, you never know whether anyone's being genuine or not. So I'm watching these conversations and I'm like, all in my notes, I'm like, Loki's lying, she's lying. And a lot of these things never come to fruition. Like, they could still be lying about various things. I don't know. There could have been some manipulations that were not revealed. But again, at the end of the day, a lot of these things that I thought were manipulations were not revealed to be manipulations in this episode. And I think that really helped me enjoy the banter a little bit more, because I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what to believe. We have two liars and two manipulators. One wants to get this Tim pad that will allow them to get off of this planet. And the other, because she wants to charge it. And then Loki has it and obviously doesn't want to give it to her, but also wants to get off the planet. So they have different motivations. And they're both manipulative. They're both trying to meet their own needs. And I just found the fact that you can never really know what the reality is to be incredibly interesting right now. I think Axel talked about this on, I believe, the episode 2 deep dive, where we mentioned about Loki being an unreliable narrator kind of, and it's because like you just never know if he's being honest or not. And I really enjoy that aspect of the show. And he said that he kind of just sits back and watches it and doesn't think about it. And that kind of helps him. And I think for me, overthinking it kind of helps me, because I'm sitting here like, okay, is he doing this? Is he doing that? What is he like? Like, for instance, there's a moment in the episode where it looks like he broke the Tim pad, the item that's going to allow them to get out of there. It looks like he broke it. I'm sitting here wondering, like, is that even a real Tim pad? Like he could have just created a fake one and said, oh, it's broke, and now we got to do blah, 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 with some sort of long-term Loki plan that I don't know of, when in reality, the Tim pad is just fine. And maybe he wants more time with her, because they did seem to kind of hit it off a little bit. I almost felt like there was like a weird kind of romantic tension there a little bit. But I really enjoyed the look of this episode, and I really enjoyed the banter between the two of them. Really good stuff there. I also really enjoyed the flashback to, well, the episode opens with this. It's a flash. It's technically a flashback to last week's episode, really, but this flashback where we see Lady Loki / Sylvie. We see how she actually pulled off the enchantment of Hunter C20, who gives her the location of the timekeepers. And I really enjoyed seeing how her how her enchantment works from the perspective of the person being enchanted. I thought that was pretty cool. So that was fun. Nice little way to show how her powers work. And then I also like the fact that we did still learn something this week. We learned that the TVA is not creating people like they believe that they are, like the people who work there believe that they are. Sylvie says that these are real people who lived before, and they're all variants, and they don't. And Loki says they don't know that they're variants. Like, we know that we're variants, but they don't know that. And all I could wonder is, what does this do for my my multiple Mobius theory? Because I was saying that with, looking at the coffee rings on the table, the rings from the cup, to me was an indication that maybe there's like a rewinding of time constantly, and this is something that Mobius does constantly that he doesn't know he's doing. But though now I feel like, I'm still right if it plays out this way, but now that those could just be Mobius variants who have come in there. And he said at some point, he questioned, and I mentioned this, and I think in the episode 1 video, he questioned whether or not she had other people who worked for her that she liked more than him. Some other agent that she thought was great. What if this other agent is just a variant of Mobius, and there are multiple Mobius variants, and maybe he has failed in this mission to stop Sylvie or stop Loki, and then like another Mobius is brought in to try it again. Like, who knows? And every single Mobius comes in there and fucks up her table with his coffee cup. Like, I think that's on the table firmly, and I think that I think this coffee cup thing is going to be a sign that to clue us into that's happening. So I really enjoy. I'm going to enjoy anything that's going to make me look like I'm right. so I'm definitely going to enjoy that. And then I also liked how they play off their various strengths. I kind of assumed that all Loki variants would essentially have the same power set, and they don't. Like, Loki doesn't understand her enchantment thing, and he asks her to explain it to him. She doesn't understand his magic. I loved how they were able to do a combination of their enchantment and his shape-shifting to get on this train. I also like the fact that neither of their plans really work. Like, his plan, Loki looks like somebody who has it all figured out, right? He's got his plan. He's like, I'm gonna shapeshift into this guard. And on the surface, that seemed like a good idea. Ultimately, it didn't work because he didn't think it out. And it's the same thing that happened when they went to the woman's house or whatever that was in the middle of nowhere. He had a great plan. Like, he sees the picture, he shapeshifts into the woman's husband, but he didn't think it out. So he gets up there, he starts talking, and he immediately gives himself away. Maybe if Loki were just a little bit smarter and a little bit less cocky, maybe he talks to that woman to find out information about that husband before he tries to pull that stunt. And then maybe it works. But, I like the fact that they both have their various strengths. They work well together, but there's still flaws there on an individual sense. Like, she can't succeed without him, and he can't succeed without her. And I think that's going to make things a lot more interesting, especially if these two end up being together by and large for the rest of the season. That'd be pretty cool. So, interested in that. And then the last thing that I thought was super interesting that I liked about this episode was, did we confirm Loki's bisexuality here? I know there's always been it's known within the comic universe that Loki's sexuality has been very fluid, and that's kind of the idea of the Lady Loki, is that Loki's been all different sorts of people. And there's always been like a thing about, even before this, even just with Loki's appearances in the movies, this thing of like, is Loki bisexual or whatever? And it seems like we got confirmation there, and it seems like we got confirmation that maybe like Lokis in general are bisexual, because he asked her if she has some sort of love interest, and I really liked her answer, by the way. She said something like, yeah, I managed to work up a relationship with a postman while I've been traveling between times, trying to tear down the TVA. Like, yeah, like obviously she has time for relationships, right? And then she goes to him and like, is there a special woman in your life or a man? And then I'm like, oh, okay, are we going here? And then he says something to the effect of both. And then he says something like, I imagine you know about both as well. So I think that's interesting that, Marvel and Disney took the time out to essentially, it seems to me, confirm the bisexuality of a major character. And I think that's something that they did with a very nice subtle touch, which I've mentioned on various videos before, that I like not being hit over the head with a giant hammer of information. I like it to be a little bit more like, oh, we just gonna slide this in a little bit just so you can if you have a keen ear, you'll learn something right here. So I like that quite a bit. As for what I didn't like in the episode, nothing. Again, they continue to do everything right to me. I don't really have any complaints. Again, I'm looking at these episodes from an analytical eye. I'm taking notes. I'm ready to pick them apart if there's something there to be picked apart. But at the end of the day, the show is incredibly enjoyable. It's really fun. It's incredible to look at. The storyline's incredibly interesting. Like I said, time travel and all that kind of stuff, that's my jam. I'm all about that. Multiverses, all about that. So the show's really firing on all cylinders. I don't have any complaints. It's never boring. There's never an episode that seems like a waste. Like this episode, I think, did a lot to help us learn not even help us learn, but I think help us see where Loki is now versus where he will end up, based upon not just all of the events of the show, but really even based upon his whatever interactions he is going to have with Sylvie throughout the course of this show. So really interesting stuff there. So I have no complaints. Another great episode. And then one thought that I did have is that we learned that her plan was to destroy the TVA. He said something like creating an ultimate vacuum or something like that. And my question is, why? What does she have against the TVA? It's got to be something personal, right? Like, I don't think she is just on some like hero shit where it's like, oh yeah, the TVA has too much power and I'm gonna take them down. Like, I don't think it's that simple. So I look forward to hearing maybe a little bit more of her backstory as to why she ends up, wanting to take down the TVA. I'm also very interested to see what's going to happen whenever Loki ends up back with the TVA, or back with Mobius at least. Very interested to see what happens there. And then I'm also interested to see how they get off this planet, because the episode ends on a bit of a cliffhanger with the ark that they planned on hijacking blowing up. And I think, like, again, I'm still kind of holding out hope that, I don't say holding out hope because I'm not hopeful for this, because I don't feel like this is necessary for them to get off the planet. It's only necessary for me to be right. But I'm kind of holding out hope that he actually still has the functional TemPad, and the broken one was a fake, was just an illusion. But then my question would be, what does Loki stand to gain from tricking her into believing that the TemPad is broken? Because, like, there's very real stakes. The real stakes being that they could die. So, like, what is he trying to gain and putting their lives at risk in order to do it? If, again, like I'm saying, that this was a fake TemPad. But there was a whole lot of things that I'm like, is this real? Is he being serious? Is she being serious? And we never even find out. And some of those things I don't think are going to happen. Like, I wish I could remember. There was some portion of their conversation on the train that I was wondering if this was real. And I figured we would find out about it later, and we didn't. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I'll be back for the deep dive next week with Delvin and Axel. There's a lot to discuss here. I haven't talked about too much here. I'm just mainly gushing over their banter and the look of the episode and Loki's sexuality. But lots to discuss on the deep dive. So I will see you guys next week on Monday for the deep dive with Delvin and Axel. And until then, peace.